top of the table.
Back in 2014, when I was leaving my high flying job in an organization which was reeking of office politics, I thought to myself, I am entering the development sector. Hopefully, people would be better and no office politics. What a stress free environment would that be? At that instance, a colleague of mine told me, work isn't work without a splash of politics. And the words seems to be true. Working in an NGO, which was seemingly for the betterment of the society too, wasn't free of office politics. And if a place designed and aimed at making people's lives better, not free of politics, then God save us. No place can be free of politics. But why is it that despite a large number of people not interested in office politics, offices still turn political? What is the psychology behind this? We discuss this on top of the table today with clinical psychologist Jaswandi Sahasrabudhe. Hi, Jaswandi.
Hey, yeah, Sheetal. So, I was just listening to what you were saying, and I really liked what your colleague told you that if there's no politics, it's like you're not going to office. So, I really liked because I agree to what she said. If there's no politics, even if there are people who do not want to get into politics, we actually encounter a lot of political situations that happen in the office, and that certainly makes us feel uncomfortable at certain point. So, but I have one or two reasons, why every place becomes political, or to be very honest, at times toxic as well. The first reason would be because there is difference in expectations between two colleagues or two people. For example, you expect something else and I expect something else, and then there is a clash, there is a kind of a conflict that starts, and then that is where the politics begins or gives birth to. Also, I feel, secondly, because we are dealing and working and talking and conversing with social animals, as humans are social and emotional beings, even if they are, like, if they have graduated from Stanford, IITians, or even the best institutes in the world, they are emotional beings. And when a person, I'm sure you'll agree to this, Sheetal, when a person starts climbing the ladder, the other person feels threatened, you feel upset, or what you say is actually, you start feeling insecure, and therefore you act in a certain way which turns to be more political rather than actually making you feel uncomfortable. The person actually wants you to pull you down, or even make himself feel safe. And that's where I believe politics gets into the picture, because not every being is a logical being. We are more emotionally driven rather than logically driven.
True, Jaswanti, and I find this entire structure and the way that you were explaining it pretty animalistic, pretty primal, to be very honest, because there is a person or maybe other people also who want to be that alpha, which means in the leadership position, and there are people who want to be close to that alpha, and therefore there is a certain political structure that kind of builds up and it trickles down. I think that is how it works.
So true. And Sheetal, it's most of the times when we behave in like in workplace situations, we tend to do it involuntarily, or I would say people do not want to get willingly into the office politics, but it is just that they are dragged into it. Don't you think so?
Yeah, true, because there is no escaping it, right? If you have to survive, you will have to either be in the defensive or the offensive mode, So, but that kind of becomes extremely important. You can't really do anything about it.
And that brings me to, I was reading a lot about your needs and how office politics, or even so I have been getting a lot of like client calling me saying that I am feeling very exhausted and stressed, not because of the work, but because of the environment or the office politics, or I would say the way people are treating me. And that made me think a lot, and I started reading, I started researching about it, and that's when I came across a psychologist named Robert Hogan, who spoke about three evolutionary needs, okay, for politics. That why that these are the three needs or reasons why people actually get into or get involved into office politics. The first one, I would say, is to get along. Do you think, Sheetal, that would be a need?
I think it is a need because what happens is that if you don't get along, like you mentioned right in the beginning, that human beings are social animals, right? Then you are isolated. And when you're isolated, you feel even more threatened, right? So you want to be a part of the herd.
So true. And like that's what we also call as peer pressure, right? At times you don't want to do something, but you end up doing along, like you get along it because you know if you do not do it, you're going to get cornered or you are going to get isolated. So you just do it because you want to get along. So that can be the first need. The second need that he spoke about was the need to get ahead. So as I was talking about climbing the ladder, every one of us, accept it or not, we want to get ahead. We want to move ahead. We want to climb the ladder as fast as we can so that we reach our goal. But while we do this, there are so many things that we are actually, so many people who we are hurting on the way, or also voluntarily, involuntarily making uncomfortable. So the need to get ahead is also one of the reason why, which I believe leads to a lot of toxic office politics. Last but not the least is to find the meaning. uh, I believe, Sheetal, you are a great like orator, or the way you speak, I really like about that quality of yours. So, do you think finding a meaning in life is related or associated with office politics?
I think when we talk about finding the meaning, and especially when we talk about, an office environment, we are also trying to, somewhere kind of fulfill the purpose of our life, right? And we are trying to find the meaning of whatever we are trying to do, what is it resulting into? And I think that is where we kind of, somehow get into this office politics grind when even when we don't want to, you know.
So true. So basically, it's like associating what you want to do and what you are experiencing right now. And if there is a gap, or if you're not able to find that meaning, you actually end up into office politics. And which, as I said, I'm talking about it since a long time, but because at times I believe office politics becomes a lot of toxic. Like it starts eating you up. And I have heard people actually say that I get so uncomfortable with politics at office that i I feel stressed, and also at times I get anxious. So do you think there's a close connection between, say, office politics and mental health conditions?
There is definitely just one thing. And what I think, while you were talking about all these three needs that a person have, and I was just wondering about it, that the moment you get into the rat race, there's no escaping these three needs, right? So I mean, by hook or by crook or by, by fluke or by, a natural intention, you would get involved in office politics. I mean, there is no beating that. But can we avoid it is the bigger question, which I think we'd kind of answer as we progress in the show.
So true. And Sheetal, I guess, yes, there are ways that we can actually deal with office politics, or even overcome it, or even reduce it to certain extent. And I believe the most important or the most crucial team, or the way to go ahead with, is through leadership.
So, Jaswanti, what I have noticed, what usually happens is that in organizations, there is a group which is actively into politics, which is usually the, senior most rung of people, right? And then there is the gang, which is basically the people who are executing tasks, they become the victims of this politics, or they have their own very petty politics going on. And when these victims generally get together, that and get into this political game, that is when the organization becomes into an unpleasant place. That is when your work starts suffering. That is when, things stop getting done, because people are involved more in politics rather than, in getting the job done, which was happening in that organization that I left back, in 2016. So, this is what exactly kind of happens at that point in time. And leadership, I would say that, mostly in all the organization, it is a trickle down effect. So if a leader wants to stop or set a rule or regulation or a kind of, how the structure of the organization would be, what are the kind of things that a leader would possibly enforce people to do, or what are the things that the leader would expressly say that, these are things that are not going to be liked or not going to be taken lightly in an organization. I think that is the moment when these things start stopping, or at least minimized to a great deal. For instance, harassment of any kind, it could be sexual or it could be harassment, being abusive or verbally abusive, etc. So when the leader is doing that, or the second leadership or the third leadership or the people who are executing, they get that green flag that, oh, you can get away by saying, these foul words to your colleagues or your peers. But when your leader does not use those words, then obviously there is no trickle down effect there, right? And if any other person is using that word, that person can be hauled up. So yes, it is very important for how a leader behaves and carries himself, and what is the kind of tone of the organization and the rules and regulations of the organization, which could be unsaid, that he or she or they basically kind of set forth through example, through the way that they personally behave.
So, Sheetal, basically, a leader, that's to summarize, I would say a leader needs to walk the talk or lead by example rather than doing something, as you said, the way a leader speaks or the way or the first management or the first leadership speaks. The entire culture gets developed in that way that people start feeling, oh, we can do this, we can, it is, yes, we can get along in this way. So I would say yes, that's why I spoke that okay, leadership is the most important, and it becomes more important when it comes to office politics, because they need to manage tension, okay, within the group, so that the group performs better. Because as you said, if you get engaged into office politics, your performance or productivity decreases to a greater extent, because you're spending most of the time in deciding what should be my next move rather than working on your project. I'll give you one example from my life, and I don't know whether this is the right thing to speak or no, but Sheetal, at times when I was working with a couple of organizations, and I realized that the environment was so toxic, that if I had to work for 8 hours, in that 8 hours, I was thinking about how can I battle this office politics for more than 4 hours. So if you see, half of my day used to go in thinking about what can I do to sustain in this organization, and that was eating up my productivity and also my mental health to a greater extent, because I used to get tired by the end of the day, not by working, but just by thinking how to overcome office politics. So,
Absolutely, Jasmeet. And it is very tiring because you're constantly, your mind is active and thinking, like you said, about the next move.
and Sheetal, but when I shifted I had a shift in my job, and I actually came and I spoke to one of the leader. One thing that I really liked about that person, I was working 2 years back with him, was that he said, Jas, I really like to talk to people, and I really like to understand how they talk to others. And I have a very open environment. And Sheetal, believe me, that is one organization that I have worked in where there was least politics, because the leader himself knew how to behave in front of the employees or the executive members. So he knew exactly how to behave, and when the leader behaves in a certain way, obviously the people who are reporting to him or who are working under him will behave in the similar way. They will refrain from getting into office politics. So I would say a good leader, yes, first needs to manage the way they behave with themselves and others. Also, they need to be careful about how they motivate others, because I would say that person with whom I was working is my role model right now, in terms of the soft skills, in terms of how a leader should be.
The environment of an office also is very reflective of the leader and the qualities that a leader possesses. So like you said, if your leader is transparent, if he's empathetic and approachable and competent, then you know that the place that he's running, the organization that he's running, would be transparent, would be empathetic, would be competent. Whereas if the leader himself is, hypocritical, selfish, kind of promotes hierarchy and is incompetent, then it would breed more politics, because you're constantly trying to hide all these, negative aspects that you have in your particular character. So I think that that is how that kind of also runs. But just one thing, tell me, see, we've spoken about leaders and how, leaders are supposed to carry themselves, or they need to walk the talk, and how they are supposed to behave a certain way and kind of also set the tone of the entire organization, right? But what if you are caught in a place as an employee, or as maybe a junior or mid senior kind of position, and you are in an organization which is political any which ways? How do you survive in the organization like that, and how do you safeguard that job? Because I'm sure that most of the people want to listen to this podcast to understand that.
Yes, sure. Sheetal, I'll surely give ways that people can actually battle this politics with. But Sheetal, I would say the most important aspect here becomes that, is this, like, I have always spoken to people who come and tell me, okay, this job is making me uncomfortable, I'm not able to sustain. And I always ask them one question: do you actually want to work it out, or you feel this is not where you want to be? If your answer is yes, I want to work it out, I want to come out of it in a positive way by still being on the job, I want to actually battle this, or I want to overcome this office politics, yes, then I will obviously be sharing 6 ways in which you can actually try to come out or even battle this office politics. The first one is that we need to understand that, as we spoke about when we started this podcast, that not all human beings are logical beings. People are more emotional. They are emotional at times, sorry to say, but emotional fools rather than being very logical. So we need to understand that people react emotionally, and you need to understand the emotional reaction rather than giving a logical, I would say, explanation to it. So having a balance between logic and emotion, yes, can be a good way to battle this in office politics. The second one would be focusing on creating better relationships in order to, to influence people. I would say you need to have good relationship with people, and for that I have always told people that you should be reading more about transactional analysis. This speaks about how you can communicate in a complementary fashion, which makes people feel, oh, this person might be going in the right direction, or this person might be saying the right thing. So in order to develop better relationship, you need to understand what is a complementary communication. You need to know, if a person is talking to me in X way, I cannot go and talk to him in a B way. You need to have a complementary communication by talking to him in, say, Y way. So you need to understand and develop effective relationship with your colleagues by focusing on being more assertive or more positive rather than being trying to pull them down. The third one I would say is understand people's working styles. I'm sure all of us work in a different way, or our working style is different. For example, Sheetal, in our case, you are more into the creative angle, and I'm more into structured working style. So, if we do not understand our different working styles, obviously there will be a clash. Because if you expect, okay, Jazz, you have to be always creative, I'll be like, Sheetal, no, I cannot be. And then I'll try to do things which obviously I will try to protect myself, but will in like in the course will hamper you to a greater extent. So it is important to understand our working styles and then adapt to these working styles. It's not just that you understand, okay, I know Sheetal is creative, I'm not, but you need to even adapt to it. So you need to come midway in order to have a better working environment. The fourth one, and the most important, is pick your battles wisely. I would say you need to know who you are having, I won't say a battle with, but a conflict with. And once you understand what is the position of the person, what is the personality of the person, how he, she, they will react to what you are doing, you need to be very, very careful. And if you choose the wrong person, you might get into the trap even more. So it is very important to choose or pick up your battles wisely. The fifth and the most positive way to look at it is you need to look at the brighter side. Rather than looking at the glass half empty, you need to say that, okay, the half is glass is at least half full. So you need to look at the positive side of the office politics and understand what are you gaining through it. Yes, you are feeling uncomfortable, you are getting into a toxic office environment, but yet there is something that obviously you're learning from that. So you need to look at the brighter side as well. So last but not the least, you need to neutralize negative politics by not being participative. You need to understand, okay, I am getting into office politics or I'm getting involved into office politics, but I'm not the one who is starting it. So if you are getting involved, yes, there are other 5 ways that we discussed that you need to work out with, but you need to be very aware that you are not the one to start the office politics, because then you are into getting more into it and then you get into a negative loop. And as I said, like me, you will spend time, most of your time of the day, just getting into office politics, thinking about it, okay, what can I do, how can I do this, how can I do that, rather than working on your projects or improving your productivity and outcome.
And Jaswanti, I think that when you were talking about picking your battles wisely, I think it's not just about, the person that you're picking your battle with, but you cannot be fighting each and every battle, because that in itself will be so exhausting that you'd rather be more concentrated on neutralizing those battles than actually kind of delivering in terms of your work and and bettering your performance.
So true, Sheetal. Yeah, I completely agree to it.
So, as we come to the end of this podcast, I tell everyone that, ask yourself if you want to be in the organization, which is what Jaswandi said, which is very political because that in itself is an exhausting job. So, if yes, then you have the 6 ways to survive in a political environment, which Jaswandi just gave you away. But if you feel the place is sapping you of your energy, then you might want to rethink your decision and maybe look for another organization for yourself. If you are a leader, then I'd say you need to understand the skill set of your colleagues and also ensure that the place is least political. Lead by example, because only then can you ensure high productivity and success of your organization. Thank you, Jaswandi and listeners, for joining in today. We will be back again with another interesting episode on Top of the Table.